This is Gemara in Shavuos, Daf Dalid. We're holding in the bottom of Gimel Amid Beis, and all the learning should be an incredible schos refuah shalema for Tinoik ben Miriam Ahuva B'soich Shar Choyle Yisrael. So we're holding on the very bottom of Gimel Amid Beis, and we're in the middle of looking at what is the Stam Mishnah that Rav Yochanan finds that holds that lav she'ein by ma'isa ein loikin olav. Once we find that, then we will be able to circle back around and figuring out what is the story with Rav Yochanan by us. So says the Gemara, because we're middle of a lengthy kasha, a stira in Rav Yochanan's that we had higher up on the Amud, that the Gemara said, kasha de Rav Yochanan ad Rav Yochanan. If you're looking in your screens, or if you're looking in your Gemaras, we're holding it to about 10 lines at the top. The Gemara said, Kasha de Rav Yochanan, because Rav Yochanan holds halacha kistam Mishnah, and we have a stira to what that stam Mishnah of ours would be. So we're in the middle of trying to find another stam Mishnah that concurs with Rav Yochanan's shita that we proposed, which is alav shein by ma'isa ein loikin alav. So it says the Gemara elahai stama. It's the following stama, 2 lines to the bottom. Ashkechach, Rav Yochanan found this following stama. Shvua shlo yochal kikar zeh. If someone makes a shvua, I will not eat this loaf of bread. Shvua shlo yochal ena. Or a shvua, I will not eat it. It doesn't say kikar zeh, it just says it. Va'achla. And then he goes and he eats the loaf of bread. So we turn over to Daled Amud Aleph, explains the Gemara, what is the psak in such a case? Again, Shvua shaloi oichal kikar zeh, Shvua shaloi achalen. No, he says this interesting l'shaynos, and then he goes and he violates his Shvua. Says the Gemara, in a chayev al achas, he's only chayev once. Rashi explains, because once he made the shvua rishayna and it's usher, when he then says, and the shvua that I will not eat it, you're making a shvua to fulfill that which is commanded upon you, which is your first shvua. And we're going to learn later on in Daf Chav Zayin, nishma l'kayim is a mitzvah, and you didn't do it, you're potter. So in our case, you're chayiv 1 for violating your original shvua. Says this Mishnah, Zui Shvua as a bitoy, Shechayvin al Zidaina Makis, Vashigasai Karban Oila Yorid. Says the Mishnah that this is a Shvua as a bitoy. This is a Shvua of a bitoy of saying something. We have to see what that means. That you're Chayiv Malkis, and if it's a Shoygig, a Karban Oila V'yorid. So this lashon of Zuhi, this is, says the Gemara in the 3rd line, Zuhi, this is the case, the Chaver al-Zodani Makis. Aval, however, Oichal v'loy oichal, circling back around to our case, so makes a shvua in the future, Oichal I will eat, or loy oichal I will not eat. The diok is loy lucky. In the aforementioned case of Zuhi, this is the case. That's an Avodah Malchus. But not in this case. So says the Gemara, this is going to be the Stam Mishnah. The Rav Yochanan is going to hold that Lav Shein by Maisa will not get Malchus. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol. Says the Gemara, Mechti. 4 lines down, let's understand what's going on over here. Hi stama, v'hai stama. We have 2 stam mishnahs. We have our mishnah, and we have the mishnah we just quoted, which is a mishnah from later in the mesechta Daf Chav Zayin. So says the Gemara, my chazi to avid ki hai stama li avid ki hai stama. Why like one do the other? Basically, who says one is better than the other? Rav Yochanan holds like a stam mishnah. We have 2 stam mishnayos. So why are we choosing one over the other? Responds the Gemara, Uletaimeich, according to your reasoning, Rebbe Gufa Echisasam Lacha. Hachi v'halcha hachi. There's an author to the Mishnayos. Rebbe wrote the Mishnayos. So Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi is codifying law, and he writes a Stam Mishnah Zoi, and a Stam Mishnah Zoi. How could he do such? So says the Gemara. Elo, what do we have to explain? The Me'ikar, originally Rabbi El Tzavar, that what? Lav she'in by Maisa. Originally, it must be that Rabbi was of the opinion. Lav she'in by Maisa. Like in a love, which fits with Ustama, and then he wrote what? Our Mishnah. And then Rebbe says, no, Vader Savar, no. Ain't like in a love, Ustama, and he wrote the latter Mishnah. And of course, this really opens up an incredible Pandora's box of the way the Mishnayos are created. We see over here that once Rebbe writes something, he will not rewrite something, even although Lamaisa he changes his mind. V'chulu. So says the Gemara, okay, b'mayu kimta ki Rabbi Yishmael ulamalkus. Maris Negayim. My Malkus Ika. Says the Gemara. 1 second. We're interpreting our Mishnah, as we said yesterday in Daf Gimel, like Rabbi Yishmael. And what's it talking about? Malkus. Says the Gemara, wait. We had multiple cases. Remember, we had 4 cases of Shtayim Shein Arba in our Mishnah. So if it's Shitas Rabbi Yishmael, it has to fit in the whole Mishnah. Says the Gemara. 1 second. One of the cases is Maris Negayim. And in what case does Maris Negayim have Malchus? Explains the Gemara. If you cut off the saras of a heres, Rav Avin Amar Rav Ilah, to Amar Rav Avin Amar Rav Ilah, Kol Makom Shenemar Yishamar Pen Va'al, any of those 3 Lishainais, whenever the Torah writes them, Einai Elo Loisasei, and therefore it says Yishamar B'neged Saras. Explains the Gemara, so that's a lav. So that's where we can see it's Rabbi Yishmael, and that's where it could be Malchus. That's where our Mishnah could be a Stam Mishnah, that lav shein by Maisa. Yes, loik in a lav. Later on is a Stam Mishnah, lav shein by Maisa. Ain't loik in a lav. And Lamaisa is not a problem, because just like we're going to explain that Shitas Rebbe retracted as he went along. Continues the Gemara. Okay, but Yitzia Shabbos, my Malchusika. What is the case of Malchus in the case of Shabbos? Lav shenita lasars bisam bezdinu. That's a different problem over there. That's a lav that's given over to a death penalty, and the klal is cholav shein cholav. Shenita lasars bisam bezdin ain't like in a lav. There's no Malchus when it potentially has a death penalty. Explains the Gemara, you're right. Mishum hachi komokmina ki Rabbi Yishmael. This is mamish the reason. Why? Because Rabbi Yishmael's of the opinion Damar lav shini lasaris misa bezdin like in a love. He holds that there is Malchus. Says the Gemara. Whoa, 1 second. You just said this is the reason why we're going with Rabbi Yishmael, which infers if not for this, we would go with Rabbi Akiva. Says the Gemara, Halavachi, you're telling me, Kaimaki Rabbi Akiva. What's the problem? Kasha Yediyos. Then we have a problem in the case of Yediyos, which is really goes back to Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, which is the whole reason we fell off of Rabbi Yishmael. So ask the Gemara, 1 second. So this is not the only reason we're saying like Rabbi Yishmael. Explains the Gemara, Lav Amrid Rabbi Yishmaeli, Ula Malchus Rabbi Kiva Nami. That's Pshat. The Klabe Malchus Rabbi Kiva is Maskim. Okay. Excuse me. Ula Malchus Rabbi Kiva Nami. Rabbi Kiva Nami. Ule. One more time. Let's see this again. Lav Amrid Yishmaeli Ula Malchus. Rabbi Kiva Nami. Ula Malchus. And everything is good and dandy. So says the Gemara, okay, but now we have to tie up all the loose ends of the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, 1 second. If we're discussing Malchus, then it's not a shot of when you know about it. Yediyos, no, it's Asrois. There's only Malchus if there was a warning, if there was Asra. Says Mar, you're right. All kasha to the Yediyas v'Asrais. But Mishnah means the Yediyah of the Hasra. Ask the Gemara, but wait, if that is true, Yachi Shtayim Shein Arba, Tartu Davon. It's not Shtayim Shein Arba. It's a simple Tarti, because it's not a difference of carbon, but a difference of malchus. V'su, Ashiyesh v'Yediyah b'Tchila v'Yediyah b'Seif v'Elementayim. Halam the malchus ma'avidite. The whole way the Mishnah was explained makes no sense, says the Gemara. There's no halam, there's no act of forgetting klape malchus. V'su, and furthermore, harei by the so says the Gemara, you're right. We have to retract, and the Mishnah cannot be referring to malchus. Therefore, the Tana is not Rabbi Yishmael. Elam Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi. 10 lines to the bottom. First one line is V'nasiv. V'nasiv aliba detanoi. This is Rabbi, and there's multiple opinions in the Mishnah. B'yidiyah hatoma. That's also like Rabbi Yishmael. But ubishvuah, that's like Rabbi Akiva, which of course is never so gishmak. But we have no other choice, so the Gemara has to explain that in Achanami there's multiple Tanoim in the Mishnah. Omar Rav Ashi, I'm reading the Shemaita Kamei de Rav Kahana. I said in front of Rav Kahana, Amarli, Lo Tema Rabbi Nasiv La Liba de Tanoi. Don't say that Rabbi said the Mishnah according to Tanoim. V'leiloi Sfira Lane, he does not concur. Elo Rabbi Taimo didn't have Shem Ifarish, which is always more Gishmak. It's not just that the Mishnah is split up into different Tanoim. No, Rabbi himself holds like Rabbi Yishmael in one case and Rabbi Akiva in another case. Tanya, as we learned in our Braisa, B'nai Shin Chayav Elal Sheish V'Yediyah B'Tchila V'Yediyah B'Soif Elamei Tayim Tam Eloimar V'Nelam Shnei Ba'amim Divri Rabbi Akiva. This is Rabbi Akiva, but Rabbi Omer no, Einay Tzarech. Why not? Because Harei Omer Harehu, excuse me. Yeah, Harei Omer. It already says V'Nelam, says the pasuk. Michlal Tiyada. Something can only be concealed if you originally know about it. So says the Gemara, the fact that the pasuk V'Nelam dictates and infers that you originally knew. V'hu yada. Then the pasuk says, and you knew. Harikan shtei yediyos. That's 2 cases of knowledge. Imkain, if such is true, matam alayim. Why did the pasuk say V'Nelam 2 times? V'chayev al helam tuma, v'al helam mikdash, to make you chayev for both. Says the Gemara, okay, so Shchan b'yediyas is late time we didn't have shay. Shavuos is the last late time we didn't have shay minalon. By yediyas atoma, we understand how Rebbe has his own shita. But says the Gemara, but by Shavuos, what are we going to answer? Explains the Gemara, svarahu. It's a svara, or l'shtachrina Shchan b'yediyas is svara like Rabbi Yishmael b'Shavuos svara like Rabbi Yishmael and svarahu. Rabbi Akiva, now Gemara explains what's the svara. Rabbi Akiva might have become a chayiv l'shavar. What is the reason Rabbi Akiva is machayiv someone if he made a shvuah? What happened in the past? The darish riboy miuti. Rabbi Nami darish riboy miuti. Now, what is this riboy miut? Says the Gemara, Tanya. We learned in a brayso. Rabbi Omer b'chol paidin b'char, with everything we redeem a b'char. Excuse me, b'chol paidim b'char adam with chamesh shkalim chutz min ashtaris. Can redeem a firstborn b'char with a shtar. V'rabbanan amri b'chol paidim b'char adam chutz me'avadim ushtaris b'karkais. So my time of the Rebbe, the Darshi Bayomiuti. Paduye mi ben chodesh is riboy comes to include expansive. Be'er chad kasef chamish shkalim, specifically 5 silver shkalim miot. Tifta, that's how you redeem. Chazar v'riba, another expansive. Riba, miyad v'riba. So what's the klal? You have a generalization. Then you have a specification. Then you have another generalization. Allah is riba yakol. Comes to include everything. My riboy, call mili. What do you include? Call mili, all, everything. Oma miyot shtarois. That's one shita. But Rabbanan the Darshi Klali Uprati, they learn it very differently. But do Yemi ben Chodesh Klal. Berch Kesach Shalom Prat. Tiftech Chazer Klal. So now it's not Ribu Yemi, so rather it's Klal Uprat. And the Allah is Klal Upratu Klal. Yatadon El Keina Prat. Ma'aprat mefurash davar metaltel vegufay mamoin. Av kol davar metaltel vegufay mamoin. And therefore, yatsu karkoi she'enon metaltelin, yatsu avadim shehokshu likarkois, yatsu shtarois. That what? Avobisha metaltelin ein gufan manmain. They're not money itself. And says the Gemara, so that's going to be the town of the Mishnah. It's really Rabbi Kiva, Rebbe himself, and he's different shitas throughout. Because it's Rebbe Yamiyah, therefore it works. We'll pick it up from here, in which Ravina is going to come to Amimar and ask, but wait, Rebbe himself seemingly doesn't hold the Rebbe Yamit. We'll pick it up from here, B'siyata Dishmaya.